Councillor Perks.
Thank you very much, Speaker. My first question is to the City Manager. Mr. City Manager, oh, where'd he go? He was here. Your office maintains a department that does intergovernmental relations. Given your experience in intergovernmental negotiations, would you characterize the federal government's role in the negotiations to date as open and constructive or frustratingly absent?
Through you, Madam Speaker, as usual, Councillor, I'll probably go somewhere in between, but leaning toward the frustrations of not hearing back on a commitment toward, most especially the ground side capital expenditures that are needed.
Okay, thank you. For the Medical Officer of Health, your report on this item indicates that the existing airport operations already pose a health hazard. Would you be looking for any negotiations on a future for this airport to not only address whether jets are bad, but to actually come up with an improvement in terms of health outcomes in the nearby neighborhood?
Yes, as I said in my report, and the Board of Health agreed, any changes to the existing arrangement with the airport should contemplate improvements to the health impact that we see now.
Okay, thank you. To the Deputy City Manager, there are a number of issues that have been in front of this Council many times having to do with the impact of Billy Bishop Toronto City Centre Airport on the neighbouring community. You've recommended some things here like flight caps, work on groundside transportation. If we give you the authority to go negotiate, given that the City Manager has said that the federal government hasn't been that helpful to date, would you take it as a sign of good faith if they made commitments on some of those issues prior to this Council approving jets or no jets?
Madam Speaker, I think if to the extent that the Toronto Port Authority follows through on some of the commitments they've made in speeches and in letters to us, for example, the noise run-up enclosures, which they said they'll install by 2016, all that would be beneficial and evidence of a willingness to cooperate with the city and assist in improving the conditions at the bottom of Erin Quay.
So we could be here when your report comes back with some commitments in hand.
We could certainly ask and see if we could seek those commitments and see that they're secured. Obviously, if they don't agree until they see a formal deal, they may not want to do that, but it would be a demonstration of good faith should they do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Perks to speak.
Thank you, Speaker. One of the problems that we face in this debate here today is that so very much money has been spent trying to persuade the public that we're debating something that we're not actually debating. And it's not just money. I have a friend who flew in from Ottawa yesterday, and as the plane was landing, the pilot announced, "Please tell your city councillor to support Porter plans." So, which is fine, they're free to tell their customers that, but that's not actually what's in front of us today. So I thought I would take this opportunity to try to explain what is in front of us. And I came up with this very simple analogy that I think will work for anyone who's ever been a parent of a school-aged child. We're all familiar with that moment when your son or daughter says to you, "Dad, can I go watch TV?" And you say, "No, not until you've done your homework." "No, Dad, can I go play in the park?" "Not until you've done your homework." "Dad, can I have jets?" "Not until you've done your homework." So I want to make this very clear to Mr. DeLuce from Porter and Mr. McQueen from the Port Authority. The report we have in front of us is very, very simple and very, very clear. It says, if you ask again without first having done your homework, you're grounded. Norm like that. So thank you, Mr. Deputy City Manager. We who have been on council for a little while, and those of us on the Toronto East York Community Council who had to go through a site plan exercise recently with the Toronto Port Authority, understand the difficulty that led the city manager to say, yes, he would lean towards an interpretation of the federal government's role as frustrating. One of the things that the federal government, through the Port Authority and the Ministry of Transportation, doesn't seem to understand is how things work in an urban setting. To get along either as a homeowner, a tenant, or a business in an urban setting, means that you must understand how to be a good neighbor. You must understand you can't arbitrarily build another addition on the back of your house. You must understand you can't just put another story on top of your house. You can't play music late at night as loud as you want. We live close together in an urban environment, and we share many things. We share the air, we share the sounds around us, we share the smells around us, we share drinking water, we share a beautiful waterfront. And I want to remind people of the importance of that. Vanishingly few human beings enjoy the benefit of living next to one of the world's largest freshwater bodies. It is a precious resource that makes Toronto a better place to live than so very many other places in the world. And only fools would turn their back on that irreplaceable resource. If you want to run a business on the waterfront, you must understand that as a good neighbor on the waterfront, you need to make sure that what you do does not impair the others in the City of Toronto who enjoy the benefits of that precious resource. And that means doing your homework. That means telling us, for once and for all, are you expanding the marine exclusion zone? Are you going to continue to make it hazardous for school children to get to school? Are you going to make the air quality worse? Have you done your environmental assessment? And I want to make sure we understand, this isn't my thinking. I want to read from the city's report. This is what is actually in front of us. The city requires confidence that the other signatories to the tripartite agreement will deliver on a commitment to co-develop a growth management framework for the airport with the city. In addition to caps at the airport, the city will require commitments from the TPA and Transport Canada to address issues such as noise management, traffic, flight paths, chemical fuel management, community improvements, ongoing consultation, curfew hours, and other matters that have been identified as measures to improve conditions for the adjacent neighbourhood and the waterfront community. Here's the important line. These issues must be addressed prior to Council's consideration of any amendments to permit jet-powered aircraft and runway extensions at the airport. Do your homework. Otherwise, don't come here again.